For this Halloween episode of Virtual Classroom, I wanted to feature a special guest, an animal that most people find scary or creepy, but in my opinion they're just misunderstood. His name is Bobby Gary. He is a Virginia opossum. And before I get started on this episode, I want to give a little bit of background. I'm a volunteer for a group called Wildlife Rehab of Greenville in the state of South Carolina. I am certified to rehab possums in the state of South Carolina. Bobby Gary is a non-releasable possum. The goal as a rehabber is to get the animals back into the wild where they belong. And that was the intentions when I took in Bobby Gary. Unfortunately, there are cases where the animal can't be released, and that's the case for Bobby Gary. There's a lot of debate on if it's possum or opossum, and you'll hear me use it interchangeably in this video. However, both possum and opossum were written down by the early colonists as appropriate translations for the Virginia Algonquin word, which means white animal. So both are actually appropriate for the Virginia opossum. So the word possum and opossum are both correct for the Virginia possum. But opossum is typically used for scientific reasons. Just to avoid confusion between the possums native to the Americas and the possums native to Australia, which were named after the opossums from the Americas. Opossums are marsupials, which are mammals that are born incompletely developed and are typically carried in the pouch on a mother's belly. The Virginia opossum is the only marsupial found north of Mexico, but its range extends into Central America. They are the only marsupial found in North America. The Virginia opossum was not originally native to the west coast of the United States. It was intentionally introduced in the West during the Great Depression, probably as a source of food. They can vary considerably in size, with the larger specimens found in the north of the possums range, and smaller specimens found in the tropics. Males can weigh 1.7 pounds to 14 pounds. Females can weigh 11 ounces to 8 ounces. Since the larger male from northern North America weighs about 20 times as much as a small female from the tropics, their coats are a dullish gray-brown other than their face, which is white. Opossums have a large, hairless, prehensile tail which they can use to grab branches and carry small objects. They have 50 teeth, more than any other North American land mammal. They have opposable thumbs on their hind feet. When threatened, an opossum will either flee or take a stand. To appear more threatening, an opossum will bare its 50 teeth. If this doesn't work, a possum will use a method known as feigning death in response to extreme fear. This is where the term playing possum comes from, which means pretending to be dead or injured. In this inactive state, it lies limp and motionless, on its side, mouth and eyes open wide, tongue hanging out, and its feet clenched. Fear can also cause them to release a putrid odor, which can help deter predators. Their heart rate drops by half, and breathing rate is so slow and shallow it's hardly detectable. Death feigning normally stops when the threat is withdraws, and it can last several hours. Not only is this discouraging to animals that eat live prey, but playing possum can also help convince some large animals that the possum is no threat to their young. Possums are omnivorous, meaning they eat both plants and animals. Plant foods are mainly eaten in late summer, autumn, and early winter. These include grass, raspberries, blackberries, apples, acorns, beech nuts, and vegetables. Persimmons are one of the possum's favorites during autumn. Possums in urban areas scavenge from bird feeders, vegetable gardens, compost piles, garbage cans, and food dishes intended for cats and dogs. Insects such as grasshoppers, crickets, beetles, and cockroaches make up a bulk of the animals they eat, but they'll also eat mice, rats, birds, snakes, frogs, fish, and crayfish. They also eat carrion. Unfortunately, the stories of possums eating up to 5,000 ticks in a season has been disproven. The studies were done in a controlled environment, not out in the wild where the possums naturally live. But that doesn't mean that possums aren't beneficial to our ecosystem and help the world around us. Not only do they eat a lot of the pest species that can invade our homes, but they also eat carrion, so they help keep the ecosystem clean. They are mostly nocturnal, meaning they're active at night, but during the colder months they can be seen during the day. The Virginia opossum is most active during the spring and summer. They don't hibernate, but they reduce their activity during the winter. It may not leave its den for several days if the temperatures drop too low. Breeding season for Virginia opossums can begin early as December and continue through October, but most young are born between February and June. When possums are born, they're about the size of a honeybee. Females can have 1 to 3 litters a year. Their pregnancies last around 11 to 13 days, and on average they have around 8 to 9 babies per litter, but females can give birth to over 20 babies at a time. Females only have 13 nipples, so only 13 of those babies will make it. And unfortunately, opossums have a very high mortality rate. Only 1 out of 10 babies will make it to adulthood on average. The young remain in their pouch for 2.5 months. After that, they can climb onto the mom's back and she carries them for the rest of their time together. It's during this time the young learn survival skills. They leave the mom around 4 to 5 months. Unfortunately, possums have an unusually short lifespan for their size. In the wild, the maximum lifespan is 2 years. Even in captivity, they only live around 4 to 5 years. Opossums are surprisingly resistant to rabies, most likely to them having a lower body temperature compared to most mammals. Only 10 have tested positive for rabies in the last 100 years, so your odds of finding a possum with rabies are next to nothing. I hope you've enjoyed learning about North America's only marsupial, and I hope this video helps you see them in a new light. Like always, thank you for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with what we're doing. And let me know what you think of Bobby Gary in the comments section below.